on YouTube. So, and then I'm pasting actually the link. So if you want to watch us on YouTube, I'll have some extra graphics and stuff like that. You can go to the link in our bio on IG. Okay, we're live on YouTube. All right. Let a few more people get an IG before we get chatty. So that's cool. So if you go over to YouTube, you're about to catch some intro music here. Let's see. Let's go ahead and play that. Let's go ahead and play that intro music. There we go. All right. We got intro music on YouTube. Let a few more people get in. We got Edgar texting me. Oh, wow. Okay. Wants to talk projects. Okay. Let's hit him the YouTube link. Maybe he can, let's see if we can't get... See if I can't reel him in through a text message here. All right, we're going to fade that intro music out. Do a little opening graphic here. Boom, right there. Right there. All right. Nice weather, just can't do nothing. Still in lockdown, but going to say I'm a key worker. Right on. Okay, let's play that intro music out. All right, we're introed on YouTube, so I can start talking now. Is there ample toilet paper in UK? That's so funny. All right, so we're live now. We'll see if anybody jumps on the YouTube. But as long as my audio is good on Instagram, we'll start chatting. Imagine a few more people climb in. Sorry, I'm getting a business inquiry right now. Well, that's cool. All right. Post some notes here. All right, we're in the live chat. Who we got in here? Maybe we'll get a few more people. I was late again, though, so that happened last week where people kind of started trickling in a little later. But yeah, here we are. Another Monday. I think this is our 4th time going live here. So that's cool. We've been cutting. All right, Chico's in there. That's always good. Get a little convo. We're live on YouTube also, you guys. If you want to jump over to the YouTube stream, it's in the bio of Instagram. I'm trying to push more people to YouTube. I like the interaction a little better on YouTube as far as like the wider screen and being able to share different things. But yeah, I hope everybody's good and staying safe. I was just watching the news, which gets a little, kind of wears you out. There's now, did put a limit on stuff. Only thing is hard to get is hand gel. I'm assuming that's like hand sanitizer. Oh, what's up, Cam? Cam gets a wave. We're live on YouTube also, dude. You can see the link in the bio of the Instagram, of our Instagram bio. Wonder what it's like in Atlanta, man. I wonder what Atlanta's like right now. A lot less traffic, I'm sure. That traffic there is insane. Anyway, let's see what we got. Anyway, I think we did a couple poll questions. Oh, I forgot to pull the poll questions from Instagram. Let me see if I can grab them. It was pretty simple stuff like food, kind of like your content guilty pleasure that maybe you've a piece of content that you've started watching or is totally new to you based on the fact that you literally just had nothing but time. And I know mine has been, I mentioned this like a week or two ago. But mine is definitely aviation videos. As weird as that is, I've watched probably about 100 different types of planes, I feel like, take off and land. And so aviation videos, paragliding videos, some more aviation stuff, paramotoring. And then somehow that took me to where I ended up downloading all the study information for my pilot's license. So that's been kind of interesting. Yeah, made good hanger. That's what I'm saying. And I don't know if I will go full bore and get my pilot's license, but I have started reading the information the FAA provides on their website. It's pretty costly to get your pilot's license, but we'll see. At least with this a little bit of extra time, I'll have an idea of whether it's something I want to do or not. Yeah, interesting. Global warming. I had a guy mention to me yesterday, actually the guy who did some work on my house, he was working on my neighbor's house. And I thought that was interesting, although he's not like working right now. That was his big mention, was like, look at the sky, like the air is more beautiful. Which I thought that was interesting. I mean, definitely cars are on the road less. I mean, I did see some planes in the sky yesterday. That's kind of an eerie thing, though. Especially here in Vegas at night, I can usually hear the traffic pretty steady. And right now, it's kind of eerie at night, like with no traffic at all. Yeah, I need to pull. Let me pull. What did other people say here in this in our feed here? Let's see, shows. I saw NCIS in there. People rewatching. Let's see. Let me just pull these back up. Pull these screen grabs back up. Still letting a few more people get in the IG. What was the other question? What was for dinner tonight? What shows have you loved during quarantine? Anyone in the feed can throw in what they've been watching. Here's another one. What daily habits have you implemented? This is the one I wanted to talk about because I'm pretty anxious about it, is when do you think we should open up the economy? And then probably the last one. Oh, what's up, Jeremy? Jeremy had some good answers too. And then the last one was kind of what's for dinner tonight. I guess that goes with eating and stuff. Set these down. Sometimes I'm referring here, and then sometimes I'll refer to the YouTube stream. Let's see if we got any YouTube viewers. Oh, Edgar's in there. Yes, Edgar, what's up, dude? We got Miles in here too. Yo, Miles, what's up, dude? Well, cool. So we got some people in here. So let's start talking about stuff. I think my thing, especially getting back, I'm anxious to get back to work. And if it seems a little insensitive to, people who've been more directly affected by COVID or coronavirus, that's not what my intention is, that's for sure. But I am anxious to get back to work and just to get to, whether it's an event or cutting videos or, we've been managing to stay busy in the studio, editing stuff for clients, whipping up videos for ourselves, a lot of little client cut downs and stuff like that. And I can tell that, at least the people I'm talking to are starting to ramp up again and start to, make plans to come back. And so that's exciting for me. I know, talking to maybe friends in New York or other places, it's just interesting how different our experiences are right now. I talked to a friend yesterday. She has a friend who works at a hospital in New York that has been, swamped. And, we're getting some chats on. Oh, cool. What's up, Miles? Thanks for tuning in, dude. But here in Vegas, we're still fairly spread out. Oh, cool. I'm getting my screen grabs. Thanks for doing the screen grabs for me. Thanks for sending those screen grabs. These are our answers to our discussion questions. Anyway, just forward thinking about getting back to work and what that might look like, especially working in events, working for culinary events, music events, stuff like that. What that's going to look like, I'm not sure, but the fact that we're starting to talk about it is exciting. And I know I was talking about it yesterday with some friends and some neighbors, and I think maybe I came off a little insensitive to someone who had a friend in New York, which definitely wasn't my intention. I think I was just trying to explain to her just the different experiences that we're having. Just yesterday, I found out about a close family friend that actually tested positive, and is on a respirator. So it kind of made me step back a little bit and think a little more through it. But, the talk of getting back to work, I think, is a big deal. I mean, if you're in any industry, anywhere, or have a business, or, just working on your own, I imagine definitely the average American is in a place that they're anxious and excited to get back to work. And we're hearing about phases and getting back to work in phases, but, what is the timeline with those phases? For me, I feel, I don't think even when everything opened up again, nothing will ever be the same. Well, yeah, Carrie's bro tested positive. He's a corrections officer at the jail. Dang. It's funny you mentioned the jail thing. I was going to open up and say, I wonder if obviously that might have happened at the jail. I don't know. Hopefully Carrie's bro's doing all right, and the best of him for sure. Anyway, I was just watching the news right now, and they were mentioning how many people they're releasing from prison, which I thought that was crazy. Oh, good, he's doing fine. Well, that's good to hear, bro. I hope it's he continues to do well. But I was thinking, like, imagine a world where we release prisoners, from jail and ticket people at church, and like that's kind of where we're at. And I think it's a testament to like how busy some places are, how busy aren't. In the comparison yesterday, we were talking with my neighbor, and she was talking about a hospital in New York. But it's like, she was like, oh, well, my nurse friend, and she almost kind of took it personally until I said, well, let's step back. And, I'm not really referring to, that just one instance. It's more, especially here in the States, like state by state, it seems to be happening different. I have friends in the Midwest that have been back to work for like 2 weeks, and other friends that I don't even think ever had to not be working. And I talked to a buddy in Nebraska, and he said he's been back to work for 2 weeks, and that a lot of the people that he works with didn't even end up having to leave the office. And maybe somebody in New York might think that might be somewhat careless, but if you ever been in Nebraska, things are a bit more spread out. You step out in New York City and you are amongst the people. Whereas Nebraska, even there's spaces between the houses and stuff like that. But every circumstance. Miles asked us, what cameras are you using? So we got some YouTube questions. Thank you, Miles. I'll just answer them instead of typing in. So right now we do all of our own production. Yes. So right now my setup, it's a little blown out, but, let's just simplify it. So I got an EOS R. I'm streaming into OBS, and then streaming that out to YouTube. And then, you can kind of see my setup on YouTube. You can see my camera phone here, my phone here serving the IG live. We're also live on IG for our YouTubers. And, the way I've been doing this is the fourth time we've done this. We do live stream for clients and at different events for interviews, and other things. But in the case of the studio right now, I'm waiting on a few other little pieces of equipment, but right now, you can see on the YouTube stream, I have a Rode like boom mic here. In case anybody wanted to request live and go live with me, I can boom their audio into my YouTube stream. Which this next week I'll be able to just attach into the phone and run all my audio through my computer. So that'll be cool. But what cameras are you using? So right now the camera I'm using is a Canon EOS R, and on top of that, and actually I disconnected. It's a Ninja 5. And the reason I attached a Ninja 5, I'm not using it today, but for the longer segments, I'm going to record into the Ninja 5. And that way I can bypass like the 30-minute recording time on the EOS R. Sorry, I'm getting a little rambly, but you can see on the Joby here, I got the phone mount, simple, like newer phone mount. And then everything runs here into, at least audio wise, I have a H6 right here. So it's a fairly decent blown out setup. And then I got the Cam Link. It's an Elgato Cam Link that goes into my computer. And then a few things I'll be adding in this next week. I have a Stream Deck XL. And so any content piece that we'll be talking about, I'll be pulling up on the YouTube stream. Oh, cool. Yeah, I really want you guys to collab soon. You talking about Miles and myself? Cool. Edgar's in there too. But yeah, so it's, for just a quick throw up stream, it's probably a pretty full setup, but I want to build this and kind of evolve this into like a show and tell, and then also, a call in. So that'll be, I think even next week I'll start that, where, I have a few like guests lined up, and kind of getting their times on a Monday afternoon has been somewhat difficult because they're still busy moving and shaking for their companies. Oh, cool. Yeah. And Miles, for sure, like DM me or something, we can connect. You could DM me or email me or anything. I may start clicking around, you'll find my information. But yeah, like I said, this has kind of been in the works. We did a lot of pre-recorded podcasts, but for me, I think once we all got locked inside, those seem to be somewhat dated and a little bit just not relevant at the moment. And so maybe we'll post some of that backlog stuff. But for now, we'll just do live streams, cut down from the live streams, and then post those videos into YouTube. And like I had mentioned, I think to Mo, like last week, we've started, continued, I guess is more the word, but continued, cutting and creating some tutorial type videos and different stuff relating to, our experiences and expertise on, on set or live events, on set. But yeah. And so, yeah, that's what we've been doing. I think this is our 4th, and I want to go live at least Monday. And then I think that'll turn into probably Mondays and Fridays, depending on how busy we get coming out of it. So anyway, I appreciate you guys on YouTube. That's it's pretty fun to have some interaction on YouTube. And, once I get I'll get that XL set up, and I'll be able to quickly show you guys some of the stuff that I'm talking about. Or if somebody sends me in pieces of content or different things, I'll be able to pull those up pretty quickly. So anyway, yeah, opening back up, I think, in my circumstance, we're able to stay pretty separated from people. And, I think I mentioned it last week, I'm either in the studio or at a gig shooting. So for me, I would be pretty ready to get back to it. I know not everybody's that fortunate. But yeah, and I had mentioned, working kind of on set. I think that was some of the things I was going to talk about today is some of our on set, some on set experiences or at events, which is interesting. There was a time, at least in my experience being in photo pits and at live events, it's funny coming into a photo pit at like a concert or a music festival, and usually get like a 3-song. Every artist is very somewhat particular. I've had artists where, they've limited access of content creators or shooters, videographers, photographers, whatever, as far as getting into the photo pit. I remember, Okay, so Edgar's got a nice question. I know you've been working at home since before the crisis, but how do you turn off and on work during the day? That's a good question, man. I feel like that is an never-ending process of trying to understand when. I mean, honestly, I find plenty of things to do. Like if you give me, even if I don't have any work or anything, I will, I'll spend I think I spent a whole day yesterday just on this mic. And that's a great question. So he said, I know you've been working at home since before the crisis, but how do you turn off and on work during the day? I mean, it's definitely a space thing. You definitely need your own space, and I'm one that needs complete silence a lot of times when I'm working or thinking through something, especially technical things or creative ideas. That's a big one. You got to be able to find space for like creative ideas for sure. And so here at my house, I'm right now actually in my pool house. I call it the studio, but I'm blessed enough to have, a couple hundred square feet out here that is strictly dedicated to what I do here in the studio. So as far as turning it off and on during the day, I guess it would depend what type of worker you are. I mean, I'm someone who works in sprints. So, I'll spend my sprint could be 10 or 12 hours. But once my mind's into something, I want to leave it there and dive into that thing as much as possible. And it's super easy, especially when you get into like your workspace or, out here, I'll come in and turn on YouTube and just start listening to things. And man, hours can go by just listening to stuff on YouTube. So for me, it's just cutting off. I can only get real work done. So here's some input. Yeah, sitting at your computer for 12 hours straight. Yeah. So here's some input from YouTube. This is awesome. The tables have flipped here. This is fun. So Edgar had the question, how do you turn off and on work during the day? Chris had some input. I can only get real work done when the kids are asleep. Routine has been flipped, right? I had some nights there where I definitely waited till the kids were asleep before I started, getting to it. But the caveat with that for me is like when the kids wake up, yeah, it takes me, this is good. When the kids wake up, I want to be somewhat fresh. And if I'm exhausted from staying up all night in the studio or getting something done like that, it's kind of agonizing sometimes in the morning. So I've been trying to get to bed a little bit more consistently. Edgar says, yeah, I'm always creating, so I find myself sitting at my computer for 12 hours straight. Exactly. Miles says, that's my shit. Takes me 3 hours to warm up, start working. I'm similar. Especially working, from my studio here, I have the privilege of being able to make the space however I want it. And I can get caught up definitely into some YouTube podcasts and stuff. And if there's a new piece of gear in this space or something that has my mind captured, like that time, that's what's happening. I'm going to just work on that one thing. And I've really started though, once I really start thinking, I just got to dive into it. And I think the other thing for me too is before I didn't do it this morning, but because it's so easy to get lost in those 12 hours of designing straight or editing straight, I noticed that I have this habit of like, okay, I'm working on a big project. Okay, I got to get back to the studio and get like right to it. But I found it really to be the best of like work on that thing. You got to leave it. You got to walk away from it. And if you start feeling that like mental rut of like, oh man, my ideas aren't coming through, or, they're not translating into this video or this idea, is to just totally get away from it. And I was talking to a friend the other week and he was feeling kind of stuck like that. And I said, well, when was the last time you tried to step away from the work or like, totally let your mind go do something else? And I think with like screens around us all the time, it's easy to try to get away from something mentally so you can come back to it. But that time that you're trying to get away from it, you end up getting captured in some other piece of content or some other visual that just takes your mind. And I think the big deal is to just, eliminate any screen around you and just let there be ambient noise. Like sometime I'll just go sit in the sun, or a workout is kind of the bread and butter, I think. But there's still those challenging to separate that challenge of like separating the day. My thing has been, I'm going to work even on days I feel like I don't have much to do. I'm going to work for at least a few hours. But, once I get into that space out here or, I get going, it's definitely easy to get trapped. And, I imagine for some of you guys like Edgar and Chris, maybe Miles, you guys might have more consistent calls to handle than I do. I think the rapport I have with like my clients, or if they're going to hit me up about a project, usually I'll catch it on an email, or they'll shoot me a text and say, hey, you got time to talk? And then that might become a fairly quick phone. We might jump on the phone right there. But I don't have a full calendar of like calls. So I think that might be some of your guys' maybe a little more challenging for you guys, is having like consistent meetings and calls still. So, I'd imagine with calls that might be quite a bit more challenging. But like I said, it starts with giving yourself a little bit of space, a corner of the room, a little desk space. And then it's like, okay, when I get to this area, this is when I work, and then when I leave it, walk away. Like you mentioned, Edgar, that 12 hours straight. Yeah. Like that can be exhausting and tricky. And I think, like I said, working in sprints, I'll do some times where I'm like, okay, I can't get focused. So I eliminate everything. And then I'll go like set timer for 2 hours, and I'll just force myself to do. And no matter where my brain drifts, it's like, okay, it's 2:00 right now. I'm not letting myself do anything else, at 4. But Chris says, calls all day. I can usually squeeze in hard work between calls when I'm in the office. At home, we have to teach parent breakup fights. Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's been, kind of my challenge with having 3 kids, and, try not to leave my wife out to dry with like dealing with the kids. But I think in the same token, because I work from home, I have that experience of like when she might need a hand, or when I can like disconnect and get out here. But since this has all happened, I've been trying to be a lot more available to her and the kids, and I hang around a lot longer, as far as like getting everybody in a good place with like a nice activity or something, and then I try to sneak out here and dive into some work out here all day for whatever, sometimes 20 hours, and then I'll take a couple hours to sleep even out here, and then get back to work, and like maybe people wouldn't see me for a couple days. But yeah, Edgar says, yeah, definitely full day of calls and meetings, plus extra desire to do my own personal projects, not to mention fam or even personal time. Well, exactly. And that's definitely the challenge when you want to create your own things and continue to make your own work. And then you have, in your case, like your job or your client work. And, I feel that for sure. And then, family or even personal time. Yeah. 3 kids. Yeah. Thanks, dude. But yeah, it's challenging. Like I said, honestly, I have a list from Monday that I made. Well, it's Monday now, but this was last Monday. And I keep adding the next day onto it. It was like Monday. And then, I create a written list, because I feel like when I write it, it imprints it in my brain a little better too. But, yeah, like, I made that list, and then every day I've been adding the next day onto that list. It was Monday, and then it was Tuesday, and literally I have all the way through Sunday written on that list, because it took me the whole week to get those things that I thought I was going to get done on Monday done. So that's definitely an ebb and flow. And I think my best like advice is, and I think my wife has an understanding of this, is like when that thing hits your brain, that you have an idea, or just something that you have to get done in your mind, then just go do it at that moment. And I think having that little space, whether it's just a desk in the corner or whatever, or whatever your little space is, like go do that thing, that's my feeling. I think it's easier to get into somewhat of a flow state. I think it's easier I just hate when I have like an idea and you're caught up doing things and then you don't even get to write that down. And you knew if you would have just taken that moment, you taken like 20 minutes and just sat, wrote out those thoughts and like build out that idea in that moment, then you would feel like, oh, okay, you know, when I come back to this later, it'll be more flushed out. But yeah, the calls one is tough. And I have some theories about, you know, meetings and creatives and stuff like that, which maybe that's for a more in-depth stream. But, you know, as far as like, you know, creatives, that word creatives gets thrown around so much, but people who create, I like creators. Anyone who creates anything really there's some sense of creativity to that. But, yeah, I mean, when you got the bug, you got to just dive into that project. And I know, like, especially running my own company, like handling the business side of it. Okay, so this is a cool question. Miles says, what was your freedom price? Like the number you had to know you could rock out on your own thing and quit work. My freedom price. So you mean like so hold on. What was your freedom price? Like the number you had to know you could rock out on your own thing and quit work. My freedom price. It wasn't monetary, that's for sure. My freedom price was in like my soul. I think what you're asking is, what was that number that you felt okay with leaving and starting your own company or going out on your own? Is that what you're saying, Miles? I think that's what you're saying. Mine was more just in my own, yeah, it wasn't a monetary price. Honestly, I took the jump at the riskiest it ever could have been. I'll say that. And the reward paid off exponentially. I'll say that. And, you know, and I say that, you know, monetarily, yeah, sure. But just in my own, man, that's a deep question, dude. In my own, dang, how am I trying to say that? Yeah. I mean, I just felt like in my own rights with myself. So to be just good with myself, like amount of cash you needed before you left work. Yeah, exactly. So like I said, it wasn't monetary for me. And it wasn't monetary for me. It was, like I said, the riskiest time probably that I could have done it. It was more just being good with myself, like knowing that was something that I had to do. And, you know, that, like I just mentioned, that feeling you get when you feel like there's something you should be doing because you have that idea. And so just sit down and like do that thing. And so from a little smaller thing, like, okay, I have that idea, I need to sit down and work it out, right? Well, that idea was something I was working out for years. And then I didn't exactly know what it was. But honestly, I jumped before I had opportunity. So it was very risky. There was monetarily, it was as risky as it could have been. And so, yeah, it wasn't a monetary value. Yeah. Chico says R&R was limiting you for sure back then. Yeah. Feeling limited. And then also not seeing an avenue where you could climb out of being limited. And, so for me, it was like, well, let me create those avenues. And like I said, I mean, I made the jump, you know, to create video work and to get back in, you know, to go independent, build a little company. and create video work. But, you know, what I used as the stepping stone was my previous career, which was print. You know, I used to run a print shop and be a big part of managing and operating a print shop, starting from, you know, being a designer. And so, you know, I just started doing some print layout for some folks. And, you know, it was only about, I think maybe a month or two before I started getting hit up from people who knew I went independent and needed that type of work. And then, you know, at this point, that was a little over, well, just about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. And, you know, one job after the next, and then Hearsay. And you know, I will say I'm blessed enough that I haven't been in the situation to have to seek out work. So that has been amazing. And when I say that the risk was worth it exponentially, I mean more for who I am and who I want to be than any type of monetary value. So I hope that answers your question. And I would say the freedom. The original question: what was your freedom price? Well, if you're not free in your mind, then no amount of money will set you free. And that's kind of what my thoughts are on that. And what I think it's done for like being around my children and my wife and me personally. You know, I've the last 2 years I've been in and out of town constantly, and I leave town. But when I'm in town and I'm not at a gig, I'm home. So, you know, I think the benefit has been exponential for me personally. And then obviously monetarily, I've been able to build a company, have a full production house, name a type of equipment, you know, we have it now. And I think that was a big thing about feeling like I had to create my own avenues, is just, you know, getting my hands on like my own equipment and actually purchasing the equipment that I knew was the best for that application. Yeah, my wife was bought in day one for sure. She knew and understood like the mental struggle I was having, and it wasn't a surprise to her when I was just like, hey, I'm just doing it. And she was down, and like I said, I jumped with really no work. I had a little bit of like cash print work I was doing. I was literally like laying out van wraps and just doing little print outputs for a company. And yeah, I would spec a van and do that. But I knew when I jumped, I had a variety of skills that I could lean on. Like I said, just being so savvy with print production and operating print machines, I knew if I had to. And honestly, that was kind of part of the idea, I think, too, is okay, well, if the video work doesn't come, the, you know, graphics, animation work doesn't come as quickly as I hope, you know, I can get back in the print world, and I know I can make money doing that. So I think, you know, having both those kind of avenues and ways that I could build an income stream, you know, that was definitely, you know, I think probably helped her too. You know, it helped her with, you know, knowing that I could probably flip some cash. And I did for a month or two there, use that print work to kind of flip it. And then really within that first month, I started getting gigs. And so I feel definitely blessed for that. But the other idea I think I had was that, okay, I used to do print production and sales. For print production, like I do have old like connections with brands, and you know, that's what's been really neat about this whole thing is, you know, the clients that I work with are friends, you know, and you know, some people feel like, oh, you know, working with friends, this or that. Well, when your friends are professionals and you're a professional, you know, and understand business and how to stay professional, I've had nothing but wonderful experiences working with clients who are friends, clients who become friends, friends who become clients. I mean, it's all about, you know, consistency. And I had somebody tell me that the other day when they were explaining to a younger videographer that it's about reliability. You know, it's like, here's the thing: if you're gonna call me and hit me up, I'm gonna answer and I'm gonna see what's up. You know, and then vice versa. If we're working on a project, you know, you're gonna know where we're at with that project, and we're gonna stay on the same page with that. So. But man, great questions, dude. I appreciate those questions, and nobody's really ever asked me that. What's up, Steve on IG? What's up? Sally's in there too. Hi, Sally. And but yeah, man, got me thinking deep there. That was great. But yeah, I mean, for everyone it's different. You know, I think I'm the type of person that I had to kind of put it all on my back and try to carry the team, as you could say. And then, you know, from what's been neat is from those individual videographer jobs, you know, I initially made this a small company because I knew that that's where I wanted it to go. And so, you know, we've been blessed to work on, you know, one-man videography jobs all the way up to, you know, last year at South by, we covered a stage for 2 days at the festival, and, you know, went with six different shooters. So, you know, the projects have scaled, and I knew getting into it that, you know, we could take on bigger stuff, just with kind of that know-how and my experience. So, and my experience on set, you know, and working events and stuff. So, and that's funny because that's what I initially was going to talk about, but man, this is such a kind of better topic. And it is funny because this type of company, you know, creative, we call it a creative boutique. You call it like a content production company. But it was funny, like I've seen the evolution of photographers and videographers actually becoming somewhat celebrities. You know, we've seen it with influencers, but I mean, I can remember working a festival, and man, it was like the crowd that was up front. I lack the motivation to be on my own at this point. It's just, maybe when I'm a little older or bored at my job, plus less going on with the young kids. Yeah, exactly. And it's all like timing, you know. I think, you know, the other thing I think that I kind of mentioned, but I think helped was my experience, you know, helping run a business. You know, I had already had that experience and working on really big projects for really big clients, and having to take on the responsibility of a company without it being my own. And so I think with that idea in mind too, I had a really good idea of like, oh, okay, I can take the weight of that, as I've had to anymore. And the other thought process I had, to be candid with you, was just time. So leaving the agency or whatever, and leaving a 9 to 5, all of a sudden I had those 8 hours in the middle of the day that I could focus on, like Edgar had mentioned, you know, full days of calls and meetings plus extra desire. And I felt that was part of my thing from the creative side, is like, you know, I'm having to deliver all these things, but I got to go sit in, you know, 6-7 hours of meetings to get some which didn't really even matter to what I was doing at that time. But all of a sudden I wasn't in all those meetings. My time at the job was not occupied. So I just started taking that time and started putting assets together and building like a way to pitch myself. And literally that's what I focused on, put the website up, and next thing you know, I got a phone call. My deck was already ready. So I went down and had a meeting, and literally the next day I went and bought a camera and had a job. And the rest is history. No, I don't know. But, you know, and it's been neat moving from, you know, quick turnover, cut downs as a videographer to actually doing full productions, like producing and directing. And I think the more that I'm doing this, the more that's where I see at least my role going. And so, but yeah, you know, you definitely got to have that motivation. I think, Chris, you have more of that than you probably give yourself credit. But yeah, it just created that time for me. And I am one who, even in the evenings when I was working that job, you know, I was trying to do podcasts, I was trying to make extra videos, I was flying drones, like, you know, I'd put in a ton of extra time outside of that work time. So my job was in the direction that I wanted my career to go. You know, also I was, you know, trying to spend more time in the evenings, learning, creating tutorials, getting my hands on cameras, drones, stuff like that. So great conversation piece there, though. That was good, but like I was saying, like being on set, I'll just give it, like, since we're engaged, I'll give it another 10 minutes here. But yeah, being on set, I mean, I saw the process of just like event photographers and videographers. Okay, so Miles says, what was your biggest failure when you started? I know it was a lesson, but at the time, in the moment. So it's your biggest failure when I started. That's a good question. What was your biggest failure when you started? I know it was a lesson, but at the time, in the moment. Sorry, I touched my face. I think I've done it twice. But what was your biggest failure when you started? I know it was a lesson, but at the time, in the moment. I mean, biggest failure when I started, I mean, there was a bunch of, I mean, it's constantly something to take care of. And, I think when I started, I was on such a hustle that, I think, as far as like a dominant failure, that's a good one. I mean, there's those little, well, I can't think of a specific, just certain one, because I was on that hustle, and those first couple months, just flipping print art and print design and layouts, and literally like flipping them for cash, like, and so biggest failure. I've had so many just random ones to put. I guess I don't categorize failures in like a huge one like that. Is like they're all a series of them. But there was a lot of little things early on that, yeah, man, that's a good question. That was a lesson at the time in the moment. That's a good question. I'm gonna think about that one. I might come up with something a little better, with some more thought to that. But I think there's small ones, give and take small ones all the time. From like how I should have handled gear to, how I should have handled clients. I will say that any type of, failure or setback, like with a gig, I mean, clients are always top. So keeping that priority helps you kind of fail safe any type of failure on a project. I guess the bigger failure was probably the biggest failure, I think, maybe when we just go back to it and starting things, is I definitely could have made the jump like sooner. I was probably at a different time in my life in an even better circumstance to go solo. But I think it was waiting to get to the point. Probably my biggest failure was waiting to get to the point that I got in my mind before I actually did the things that I felt like I should do for myself. So that's probably the biggest one. It's a little like generic and just random across the board, but like for someone to learn from because it hit you hard. Yeah, I would say that was it. Like I said, the biggest benefit I've had from doing this has been personally. And I think, I could have probably moved into something like this maybe sooner or with more intent. And that was probably the biggest one, was that I was probably in a position to do it sooner. But I did it when I did it. And that's kind of the big thing. I'd say, be ready to be a business person. That's a big one too. And understand the business that you're getting into. I think I was able to avoid some early mistakes because I had the insight I had. Or some, going through it, there's a lot of different things that I would maybe do differently, but I think it was definitely, my time, and I don't like to think that anything is ipso facto or like just happened. So I think that, my timing was exactly what it should have been. So, yeah, exactly. So, great questions, Miles, dude. We gotta chat sometime. But, yeah, so that was the biggest thing. And, there's mistakes I'll make going forward, and it's just making sure that you cross your T's and dot your I's, so that those mistakes don't become something detrimental. And I think, when it comes to clients and the relationships that you build on the client like level, I think the reason I maybe get reoccurring clients is that what I had mentioned earlier is like, being reliable, knowing exactly where you are with someone, and communicating that through the process. And so if there's one thing that I want to be, it's that. Nobody's perfect, and I'll definitely make some more mistakes moving forward. But, the one thing that, I won't let be a mistake is how I treat people, and how that they feel when they're done, either working with me or communicating with me on a project. So, and I'm open too. I don't think I take things too personally, and I think that goes a long way. And I mean, even in the Corona times right now, I feel like, we opened up with a conversation about, what should kind of happen on like a realistic level, with no emotions involved. And I think it's easy, especially in today, just to take things personally. And when you really step back, like, oh, okay, that's a thing that's happening. That's not happening to me. Like, that's happening in the world. And we could look at the Rona, and that's a great example of it. It's like we're all in a similar circumstance. So this is one case where we all can agree that we're affected in some way. So this is one that we can kind of come together on. But anyway, cool. Well, thanks for interacting, you guys. I mean, I had planned to go 30 minutes. I'm like 50 minutes in. I want to keep doing these every Monday to the IG crowd here. And next week I'm going to have my Stream Deck plugged in, and I'll be plugging and playing some graphics and different content pieces that I like. So for reals, if you guys want to hit me up, you can look here. I'm on. Feel free to text me there. There's my number on YouTube. Shoot me a DM on Instagram. And yeah, I'd love to chat with some people if they want to go live with me or have any input. Really, this has been pretty enjoyable. And yeah, it's been fun making content and going live and listening to questions from people or different content pieces that people have been sending me. It's been pretty cool how many people, even though this stream is like pretty light and we're really not pushing it in a way to gain a following, how many real conversations we've had, and people have brought up, questions like Miles did today, and Edgar. And but yeah, I guess I'll wrap it here, and I'll be on YouTube for another minute longer, but I'm gonna wrap this IG. I'll catch you IGers in like a week. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. And then we're still here on. Let me end this, and then share that to the story. If I forget to share it to the story, it doesn't get pushed. But yeah, Edgar, Chris, Miles, thanks for tuning in, guys. Edgar, hit me up later whenever you want to talk about those projects. I'm pretty available. And then Miles, feel free to reach out, man. I'd love to get to know you a little bit more. Thanks for those questions, man. That was great, man. You really stretched my brain. Those were like some real ass questions, dude. So cool. And like I said, next week, I'm also setting it up to where I could take live callers. So if you guys want to live call in, or Edgar, Chris, Miles, either one of you guys want to like go live with me, we could do like a short 15 or 30. What we can do is I can IG you live here, or I can probably I can FaceTime you guys in. That's the thing I'm working on right now. And kind of my hold up with the Stream Deck is I want to literally like FaceTime into my live stream. So we definitely have the capability. I just need to fiddle with it a little bit more. And then yeah. But anyway, thanks guys. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys next week.